Good morning, my Teaserking family. How is everybody today? I am good. Met Luke last night. Thank you, Luke. It was nice to see you, meet you. Well, we met at the airport, but I hadn't seen him in a few years. Amazing how time flies. Excuse me. And thanks for dinner and everything. And it was a good conversation. So, anybody wants to share a meal, just let me know as long as it's close to Detroit. And I was able to find my way home much easier than finding my way there. Just 1 second. All right. So, what's going on? I see these tariffs. Trump doesn't know what he's doing. He wants to pass this big, beautiful bill, which is, I guess, a lot of taxes, or tax cuts, but a lot of spending. They just don't learn. I don't know. It's like, really, who's in charge here? And you just say, hey, Luke, good to see you. I made it home safe. Thank you again for dinner, and it was a pleasure to have dinner with you. My foot feels actually better today. It was a little bit tingly last night, but when I put the shoe on, it was better. I was able to drive home. I had no problems, and now I wake up pretty good. But definitely good to see you. Skanes lost 3-0. He gives up one run in 8 innings, and then they bring in the reliever, gives up 2, and they get no hits for him. Real tough. Let me know when you're back in town or Ohio. It's about an hour drive, but again, it was rush hour. All right, let's look at gold. Jumps up 33.73. It got up to 33.85. I mean, look at 10 o'clock. Gold goes down from 33.60 to 33.52. Just excuse me. I only sneeze here. And then all of a sudden it jumps back up right at 10 o'clock. Amazing how that happens every day. So it goes down to 33.62, 33.52 just before 10. So the U.S. saves $10 on their options, and then they shoot an option from 33.52 to 33.84. and a little bit of profit taking on on JP Morgan's part, not by anybody selling gold. And now 33.73. So we're up $20, which you can see is 0.6%. Silver can't go anywhere. 34.44. They're just not going to let it go. Now, the banks are fighting it. So we'll see. 10 o'clock drop rig. Well, that's how I made all my money. Well, not all my money, but I made a lot of money. It's just, you can see 10 o'clock drop. Now here it's dropping at 10. But as soon as that algorithm went to 33, 54, 55, I would have bought my 1,000 shares at 33.55 and it went up to 33.85. I would have made 30 cents, which would be $300 in all of 2 minutes, and I would have sold it. And then it's coming back down, and now I don't know what I would do, but I know I'm getting the 10 o'clock. But that's all I'm waiting for is 30 cents, $300 for a day. You don't try to get rich, you just try to make money. And if you can keep that, you make a lot of money buying gold stocks because they follow. The stocks do the same thing. So Newmont would be maybe, let's say, $42, and then it would, at 10 o'clock, it would go down to 41.50. And then as soon as COMEX goes up, the stock goes up. I found that out. I was doing, so I had 4 or 5 gold stocks and the gold price, and I'd see 10 o'clock drop, and I went to each stock, and they all did the same thing, as did the COMEX. And then they all went up. It's like they all have the same chart, totally fixed. But that's the problem with the market. It's all totally fixed. So if you think you're buying Amazon or Intel or Microsoft or Disney or whatever you're buying, if you think that's just the free market, supply and demand, you're out of your mind. It's more fixed than football and basketball and all those sports. Don't kid yourself. The NBA Finals, Oklahoma City might win, but you make sure they cover how many games they actually cover. The more money you bet on OKC, the bigger the fix. Because the house never loses. All right, so 33.73. So my assumption is July 1st, Basel III comes in, and then July 17th, BRICS meets in Brazil, and they'll come out with this is their yearly meeting. Luke was talking about the little meetings, but like in October in Russia, Kazan, they had their yearly meeting, and they don't want to piss the U.S. off. That's why they're not announcing gold, but they're doing gold. China has gold-backed currency, as does Russia, and they're starting to move it, but they're not going to make a big deal of it. They're keeping it. They keep it kind of quiet, but they're moving on it. So look for China. I mean, China has it going, so look for Russia to get it going. And if Trump keeps up with these tariffs, then they're going to force Russia and China into announcing, and that'll be end of the dollar. The dollar is just so worthless now. The big debt, these tariffs, Trump's not stopping on it. He doesn't understand them. So who's really running the country? Because, right now it's very stupid. How they think this is going to work. This smells like George Soros is behind it. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But Trump doesn't know enough. He would listen to Soros. He doesn't know enough. He doesn't know what a tariff is or how it works. Oh, good. They'll pay tax to sell to us. And that's like what I'm saying. Like, I don't go to like Costco because I'm not going to pay to shop. I can go to Meijer's or Target or Walmart and get basically the same thing at basically the same price. But I just refuse to pay to shop Well, it's wholesale prices. Great. Then it still doesn't pay for me to shop. I won't do it. All right. Let's see what Bitcoin's at. It was 106 last night. It is at 105. Why is it going down? And I love how it's the only one that has a value. All the other Bitcoins don't have a value. All right. 33, 33.72. All right. Let's check the market. The market should be about 20,000. Is at 42.5. It's up $44. I mean, this is such bullshit. Who in their right mind is buying stock? See, the people that buy stock don't know. They don't know what tariffs and taxes and recessions and depressions are, how inflation, what it actually is. So a typical guy goes to his financial planner, and the financial planner says, "Oh, you got to buy stock because that's where I make my commission." Or real estate trust or bonds. And the average person just doesn't understand. He wants to make money. He knows prices are going up at the grocery store. He sees that every day. So he wants to make enough to pay for the grocery store. And this is where the problems lie, is him trusting a financial planner, not an economist, not an Austrian economist. Again, the Keynesians, like Jim Rickards, doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Hey, Luke. The trip was good. Me and Luke had a nice dinner, and it was it was very good, very good time. So definitely enjoyed that kind of stuff. He got one-on-one with me where he could ask me any questions he wanted on the gold and the economics and everything. So I'm sure he liked that. And it was very good, very nice to meet him again. We had a similar conversation at the airport in Barcelona, but it was 3-4 years ago. So very nice. It's good to the personal, to meet in person, overdo it, because you get the feedback. Here I get the comments, but when you're with somebody and you get the feedback and you get the conversation, it's always a nice thing. But yeah, we ate at a Texas Roadhouse, and the steaks are very good. You got a salad with it and a potato, and it's sort of like when I go to the barbecue boneyard. It's only they do have steaks there, but you get ribs or you get chicken. You don't really get steaks there. But very good place. There was a good mall there, which you rarely see anymore. These malls. This is more of a strip mall. I don't think you see the indoor malls as much as the strip malls. So you see a store. That's how Europe is. Europe is all stores. That's what you see. You just walk down the street, pick any city in Europe, and it's the same. We were in the Ukraine, or we were in uh, Monte Carlo, or you're in Barcelona or in Berlin. It's all, you walk down the street, it's store after store. There's a few malls, but basically it's big stores. But they're all like strip malls. It's all just malls. And I think that's what you get with, but here we actually have malls you can go in, but not as many as we used to. So that's how the environments have changed. But there's still lots of shopping, even though the money's not worth anything. All right. So very good night. Again, the dollar's worthless. So I'm telling it to you as a teacher, not making a commission on you. Right. So keep that in mind. My goal is totally different. I'm not trying to make commission off of you, where the your financial planner is, your stockbroker. He's a salesman trying to make commission. That's all he is. So when you ask him what I should go into, he's going to tell you the stock market. That's why the stock market's still 42. People have money. They don't know what to do with it. They're not smart in economics or investing. So they tend to go to Merrill Lynch or their financial advisor, and he gets commission and he says, well, buy gold. He would never tell you to buy gold or silver. He would say, I don't know, buy Google or buy Microsoft or buy Amazon or Apple. And that's all he would put you in. And that's why they're so high. And that's why the market's so high, because he doesn't know when to tell you to stop. It's like Bitcoin. When do you sell it? It was 111. Oh, now it's 105. Is that the time you want to sell it? The problem is you don't really know. You don't have a CEO. It's not a stock. So you can see, like in a stock, you know, you have, oh, we're coming out with the Disney Channel, and because to go to the park for $75 has got to be killing them. But they have the Disney Channel, or Disney bought ESPN, I think, or whatever. And so they come out with these new things, these new gimmicks to try to raise revenue. And that makes you, oh, the stock's going to go up. Or Coke comes out with a new, I wanted something caffeine free last night, and they didn't have a pop that was caffeine free. Now I know Coke has a caffeine free Coke, but at these most restaurants they just carry Coke and Sprite and Coke and Diet Coke, and not thinking too much, because the caffeine kills you and the sugar kills you. So once you learn about it, you don't want that. So I'll have caffeine free Coke, or a Diet Burners would be fine, because that's or Diet 7-Up, stuff like that. But as you learn more, you start understanding it. So as people are in the dark and investing, they don't know buy gold and silver. So I put it out on a platter for you, and I go, the boat's sinking. Your only option's gold and silver. That's pretty simple. There's no commission here, but yet the people, if you went to a JP Morgan bank or a Chase bank, would put you in an annuity from the bank, as they tried to do with me, or stocks, buy mutual funds. And that was the problem we discussed yesterday, was your 401k. You're kind of fucked in your 401k. They get you in it going, oh, we're going to give a 3 or 4% match, but you can get out of it. You got to have retired or got a new job to cash out. And it's a joke. So you have all this money that's about to go be worthless, A, because the stock market is going to crash, and B, because the money's worthless. But most people can't get out of their 401k. What kind of crap is that? So that's where a lot of, like when Egon says the U.S. doesn't save, well, they do. It's in a 401k, not in a bank. So I don't know what he's looking at, if he's looking at bank deposits or if he's looking at investment. But that's where the U.S. saves, is in stocks and 401k. So he's kind of misled there, thinking the U.S. doesn't save. We save a lot. Everybody saves in their 401k and the company matching it. So again, a lot of misinformed stuff by these guys in Europe. They just don't get it. China doesn't get into the stock market. They buy gold in their bank accounts. So that again is where you have it. And that's where you have to understand it. You have to learn and understand what's going on. Right now, we're $37 trillion debt. Let's just ignore that. That's not a problem. Imagine you had a $300,000 debt on your credit cards. Forget your house, because that's the collateral, and you pay that over 30 years. But let's say you got the credit card and you got 300,000 on it. How are you going to pay that off? You can't just ignore it. So every paycheck goes to paying your credit card. And that's a lot of what this is with the with the investing with the U.S. You got $37 trillion. You can't just ignore it. You can't think the money's any good. Our debt's been downgraded, and here comes Trump with another budget with a $4 trillion deficit. What is he? How do you have a $4 trillion deficit? What are you, insane? You got to have a balanced budget, and you can't ignore the 37 trillion. So what? Because the presidents are elected for 4 years, they don't care. They're in to do their thing, and they're like, "I'll be out of here in 4 years." So let the other guy, let the next guy worry about it. And now we're playing, you know, what's that game when the music stops? Musical chairs. When the music stops, which president's going to get blamed for it? So Trump's kind of trying to pass it off. Well, it won't happen with us, but what he's mistakenly not understanding is these tariffs. He thinks you have to have balanced trade, which you don't. You balance it with the money that you give them. So I buy Nike tennis shoes with the $5, right? That's the trade, the money for the tennis shoe or the T-shirt or anything made in China. Problem is when Trump's doing this, he doesn't really have a backup. Well, wait, who's going to sell us tennis shoes now? And who's going to sell us shirts and golf clubs and things that come from different parts? Who's going to sell this? And that's really the problem that an economist like me can understand, but most people won't. They don't get the 37 trillion. So it goes over there, had the financial planner just all he cares about is short-term gains. So he puts them in stocks. He gets the commission. You look at your stock and you go, oh, look, it went up a little bit. Oh, Amazon went from 100 to 101. Oh, I made money. You didn't make money. You made money when you sell it. That's why it's important to quit a winner. And that's when I bring up the Vegas scenarios when you're playing roulette. You bet on red. Red's hitting, you bet on red until black hits. And then probably if you're up, you made a grand, leave the table. Maybe you play a little more black and then it kind of goes back and forth. You get up and leave. You made a grand playing roulette, and you should be happy as hell. You have to know when to get up and leave. And in Bitcoin, you got to know when to get up. You got to have a strategy. You can't, well, it's 111. I'm just going to stay in. And then it goes down to 105. And when it's 105, are you leaving? Oh, no, it'll go back up. Well, you don't have any clue if it's going back up. You don't know why it's going back up. You don't know why it went down. It's not supply and demand. How could it be? It doesn't, nothing exists. So this is the problem. Or you think everybody's buying it like eBay? So you think there's Bitcoin on the mantle card, and you think, well, people are buying it, the price goes up, and nobody's doing it, the price goes down. Well, nobody ever sells Bitcoin though. So why is the price down today? Why is it 105,000 when it was a 111? Somebody sold, or somehow the price went down, but we don't know. Gold, right now we deal with paper, but once we deal with physical, which is what China and Russia and Saudi Arabia are going to do, or Dubai, you actually need the physical bar, and then you bid it up and you sell it, and that's how the price will work. And that's already being done, and we'll see about July 17th, but they're doing it. COMEX can't last because there's no supply of gold that they can buy to when people buy the options, mostly banks. We don't go to COMEX and buy for COMEX. It's just, what am I going to do? Yeah, I want 10 ounces of gold on COMEX, and they'll never deliver it. So you can't worry about that. All right, we'll come back to that. Let's look at baseball. Yesterday, we started off with Miami over 8, and they lose 3-2 again, losing to Colorado. Is Miami the worst team in the league? Then our first bet, Pittsburgh under 7.5. Paul Scanes, McCullers, and Houston wins 3-0. Scanes gives up one run, two hits, and then they pull him in the eighth. I guess they wanted to lose the game. And see that what Canes can't go 9 innings. So Scanes is now 4-6 with a 2.05 ERA. I mean, are you kidding me? Houston does have a solid closer, Josh Hader, 16 saves, 1.38. So keep that in mind if you're betting Houston. They got the reliever, so if you can get the lead, and that's impressive, beating Scanes 3-0. Well, 1-0. Two runs came in the ninth. So anyway, so that's a winner. Pitt under 7.5. The Cubs 8, Washington 3. We played the Cubbies. That's a winner. Washington's pretty pathetic. The Yankees 3, Cleveland 2. We hit the Yankees under 8, as Cleveland's got good pitching. Rodon with the 2.49 and Bibby with the 3.89. And the game went according to what it was supposed to. We don't care who wins and loses, just don't score a lot. And they didn't. Yankees 3, Cleveland 2, under 8. That was a good play. Philadelphia wins 8-3. We have Philadelphia. Bryce Harper did play. I heard on the radio that he had played. So now you got him back. Now they're scoring and they're winning. So look out for Philadelphia again. Milwaukee under 8.5. Graham Ashcott and Freddie Peralta, 3.99 and a 2.92. Cincinnati wins 4-2. Cincinnati under 8.5 is a winner. Pretty hot right now. We've got Boston over 9. California beats them 4-3 in 10 innings. I don't know. The pitching was weak. I'm shocked it was 4-3 in 10 innings. So that's a loser, but that wasn't a bet. Atlanta over 9, 2 units. Arizona 8, Atlanta 3. That's an 11, over 9 wins. Zach Gallen is the 5 ERA, and this Spencer Strider with the 5 ERA. It's just common sense. You have 2 5 ERAs going against each other, and Arizona can hit. Atlanta can hit. So Arizona beats them 8-3. Texas under 8, and that's a winner. Tampa Bay wins 5-1. So 6. So I'm perfect on my bets yesterday. Chicago beat Detroit 8-1. Now there was no pictures posted when we did the class. I thought it would be over, but I never really saw a line. So I was a little surprised with the score, 8-1 Chicago. But I was happy with the score, 8-1 Chicago. So we'll see. Everybody here thinks, oh, Detroit's the greatest team ever. And, they've already won the World Series. And, a lot of it's their weak schedule with the White Sox in Colorado, Baltimore. And then here they go, boom. They get killed by the White Sox. I mean, it wasn't – they got one run. The manager, again, overmanages. His best player, Carpenter, who hit 3 home runs the night before, he doesn't play him because I think they're pitching a lefty or whatever. What if he's your best hitter? Why would you pull him again? He can't hit lefty. He basically was going to strike out all 4 times against the lefty. Meanwhile, the guy he replaces him with hits like 180, so he probably doesn't get any hits anyway. So 8-1 Chicago. They're starting to hit, and I guess they have a really good pitcher going tonight. We'll see. St. Louis over 9. This time I got them because the last game I had them under, and they scored a ton here. I got them 10-7 Kansas City over St. Louis. I took Baltimore over Seattle, and Seguno with a 3 ERA against Kirby with an 8 ERA. This is a good one. Baltimore wins 5-1. I have Baltimore. I have the 49ers, and they lose in 10 innings. Yaku, Matsui, I don't know. These guys were bullpen guys. San Diego wins 3-2 in 10. So the Niners have been playing a lot of low-scoring games. I think it was a 1-0 game the game before. Minnesota 10, Oakland 3. I had Minnesota. Pablo Lopez 282 against Jacob Lopez with the 720. So it's pretty easy. Just take the Lopez with the 282. In our last game, we took the Mets and the Dodgers won 6-5. Tanner Scott, I don't know who the starters were. Again, this one went 10 innings, and I didn't bet it. So my bets: Pitt under 7, Yanks under 8, Milwaukee under 8, Atlanta over 9, Texas under 8, 5-0. There you go. Solid. That's what I'm used to. So as we get going here, the pitchers start showing for us. We get more data points. Let's call it the trends. It's not a trend, but it's kind of like we're looking at earn run average. Is that a trend? Maybe. It's a similar option where you're betting on what the past was to figure the future. I do that very well in football. I don't look at it in gold because of the new variables. And it's like Tom Brady is at New England. So you're using his variables, and then he goes to Tampa. Are you still going to use New England's trends? You can't, because they were based on Tom Brady. And that's really the key there. So that's kind of what I'm getting better data, and I can see these pictures better. So anyway, 5-0, feel good about that. Today, June 4th. Jesus Christ, Colorado. There's 2 games that started. It's 12:40, and it's a Wednesday. Colorado is 1-0 over Miami. And Milwaukee, Cincinnati is 0-0 in the top of the first. Okay, no big deal. Milwaukee, Cincinnati, I can never figure out. Colorado, Miami must really suck if they're going to get swept by Colorado. 135, so that's 45 minutes away. Here we go. California, Boston. This should have been an over yesterday. It was an under. Boston, 135, 10.5. Jose Soriano, 4-5 with the 3.41. Lucas Giolito, 1-1 with the 4.78. Now, both pitchers are kind of weak. I don't know what happened to the hitting yesterday that they didn't score. This is 10.5. This is huge. My spider senses say to take Boston at home. They hit better. And the California pitchers, 4-5 with the 3.41. I'm going to go over. I'm not going to bet it. Over. It's a big number too, 10.5. The 10.5 keeps me out of it, and I can't bet either pitcher. Colorado is on a roll. Every team that's why you look for streaks. Colorado, they're starting to play better. The White Sox are starting to play better. Miami's starting to play worse. So you look for the streak. If Red's hitting it roulette, you keep betting it. You don't bet against it. And then when it finally goes black, okay. And that's when you cash in your chips and say, I'm looking for a streak. So if I go play roulette, I'm looking for a streak. If I play backrack, I'm looking for a streak. And when I play, well, all my games, blackjack or craps, I'm looking for a streak. Blackjack, I'm looking for my streak. Craps, I'm looking for what number's hitting. Is it, are the 7s hitting? Are the 11 and 12 hitting? Or are the 6s and 8s hitting? And I noticed that as I'm watching before I bet. And I'll watch at the table for 5-10 minutes, and we'll see what's happening. And if everybody's 7 out, I'll play the don't pass, which means I'm going to 7 out because the table's cold. And I don't care as long as I win. However, if I see a lot of 4, 5, 8, and 9s, 6s hitting, the guy's rolling for a while, he hits his 4, he hits his 9, 6, I will then play the numbers. And it's a very good way to play it because it's just streaks. Now, Colorado might only win 20 games this year, but they're going to win 3 or 4 here, lose another 10, and win 3 or 4 here. And I think all teams go through the streaks. Detroit has it because they've had such an easy schedule. And to tell you the truth, the manager has been very lucky. Most of the moves he's made have been wrong, but the players he's got out there are doing a good job of hitting at the right time. But like he is puzzling when his best hitter Carpenter didn't play yesterday and they lose 8-1. You're like, oh really? The left hander was what, Sandy Koufax he couldn't hit? I mean, really? And so that's kind of what you're looking at is you blame the manager's stupidity for that, right? Or pulling uh, the other one is he pulls Skubal with 90 pitches in a 0-0 game, and then pulls him in the eighth inning after 7 in the eighth inning, the reliever, and then he chooses Bo Brisky with a 5 ERA, not one of his better relievers, and the guy gives up the run, and we lose 1-0. And you're like, you pulled Skubal after 90 pitches. Why? Even after 100, I would question him. The guy's giving up 2 or 3 hits. What are you saving him for? This is what you pay him the money for. You want to pay him 40 million or whatever. Well, he's going to go 9 innings. I'm paying you 40 million. You better go 9 innings. You better go 10 innings. I don't care if you pitch 140 pitches. Deal with it. So that's the real problem is you got idiot managers who all they look at is analytics. They have no ability to do any thought on their own. All right. Houston and Pittsburgh. So we go Boston over 10.5, but I'm not betting it. And again, when I'm betting it, these little 2 units are very small bets. There's no, it's not like football where I can put $1,000 on a game. It's Mahomes as a dog or something. Here, it's just simple bets, $25, $50, and very tiny. And just, yesterday was a good day, but I've had, what was it, Saturday? I think I had a terrible day, the 31st. All right, Houston, Pittsburgh. Houston 130-9. Ryan Gusto 3-2 with the 4.62. Goes against Mike Burrows 0-1 with an 8.64. No Paul Scanes. So you get Scanes one day, you get the bet Pitt under, and then now it's problem with Pitt is they don't have much hitting. Mike Burrows, Houston should light him up, provided, again, you're looking at 8.64 ERA as if he's going to pitch the whole game and give up 8 runs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is with an 8.64, more than likely, Houston's going to score. They should hit this pitcher and score 3-4 runs. And Houston also with a 4.62 ERA pitcher. So you also have Houston. Pittsburgh should score something. Although, McCullers was a good pitcher for Houston. It's not like he sucked. Ryan Gusto. So I got to go over 9 here. And again, I'm afraid to bet it because Pitt's got such bad hitting. But Pitt with an 8.64 pitcher, the only other option is to take Houston. But beating Scanes is good. I think Houston might win because they beat Scanes, and you get the confidence. Hell, we can beat Scanes. We can beat Mike Burrows with an 8.64 ERA. So we'll go. I just talked myself, and I'm going to go Houston 9. But I think Houston will win the game too. The Cubbies at Washington. Cubbies 38-22, and Washington's 28-32. 10 games up on them. Chicago 140 and 8.5. Matthew Boyd pitching well, 5-2 with a 3.08. Mackenzie Gore 2-5 with the 3.16. It's hard to go under in a Cubs game. They got a lot of hitting, but I'm gonna have to go under. But again, this offsets me to bet it under 8.5. So I can't really bet it because again, I've got Boyd against McKenna. I got good pitching, but I got good hitting. Although Washington doesn't hit. The Cubs should win this game, but again, Boyd, Gore's a good pitcher, so it neutralizes everything's kind of neutral here. So I'm just going Cubs under because of the pitching. Cleveland and the Yankees. We had the Yankees under 8, and it stayed under. Cleveland with a good bullpen, couple of good hitters. The Yankees have a couple of good hitters, and I don't know what else. Yankees are minus 190 and 9. I think that's too much. Luis Ortiz 2-6 with the 440 against Clark Schmidt 2-2 with the 395. Yeah, I'm not going to bet Cleveland, but I would not bet the Yankees. Clark Schmidt with the 395 at minus 190 here. So that leaves us 9. Boy, I don't know what to do with this. It's in New York. I'm going to go under 9. Yankees have not been hitting. Still no bets. All right, Philadelphia, you got Bryce Harper back against Toronto. Philly minus 115 and 9. Mick Abel 1-0 with an 0-0. I assume he's a bullpen against Jose Berrios 2-2 with the 386. Yeah, let's go over here. Let's go Philly over 9. Now, if this guy's a bullpen guy or if he's a starter, he's 1-0 with an 0 ERA. He hasn't pitched much, so he's probably only going to go 4 innings, gets the bullpen. So Toronto should be able to get some runs with Harper back. Philly should be able to get runs. I just like these teams are pretty good offensive teams, so I'm going to go over with Philly. Let's check this Abel out. It's bothering me. I assume 1 game. Yeah, he 6 innings, gave up 5 hits and no runs, but it was the Pittsburgh who doesn't really hit. So we have no data on this guy. 1 game against Pitt does not get. So this is the unknown. We can't. It's hard to bet it. Against Pitt, Berrios. So we can't bet Philly with the guy that we don't know what he's going to do. So all we can do is go over. It's the only play here. Arizona, Atlanta. This should be high scoring, but it isn't. Okay. Atlanta minus 185, 7.5. Merrill Kelly 5-2 with the 378, pretty good. Chris Sale 3-3 with the 306, which is more like a 206 right now because he had a few bad games early and now he's been mowing everybody down. Well, you certainly can't go over against Chris Sale, Merrill Kelly. We got to go under with Chris Sale. So we go Atlanta under 7.5. This will be our first bet of the day, 2 units. I mean, these teams can hit, but Chris Sale is going to probably shut them out. And I'm not sure what they're going to do against Merrill Kelly, who 5-2 with the 378 is a decent pitcher. Texas Tampa, we went under yesterday on one of our plays, under 8-1. Tampa 135, 8.5. Kumar Rocker 1-3 with an 810. Shane Baez 4-3 with the 492. I'm stuck. I cannot bet this game under with these pitchers, so I'm stuck to bet an under team that I need Texas and bet them over, or I can bet Tampa Bay. So hard to bet over with Texas. So I'm going to go Tampa Bay. And again, no bet. Detroit goes to Chicago, and again, I don't have a pitcher. I think the White Sox are pitching a really good pitcher here. Oh, that's right. Detroit's got a lot of injuries on their pitchers. So the Joby guy's out, and there's other Reese Olson's due back. I don't understand. These are young guys, and these are guys that pitch every 5th day and don't pitch 100 pitches, and yet they're still getting hurt. So obviously the 5 days is not a factor, and obviously the 100 pitches is not a factor. They're still getting hurt. What do you go, 10 days, 50 pitches? At what point do you go, well, stop throwing screwballs and curveballs up there. It's hurting their elbows or whatever. I don't understand all the injuries. Um, Chicago 19-42. So I have no idea without the pitchers. KC St. Louis played a very high scoring game. St. Louis 125-8. Noah Cameron 2-1 with a 105 against Miles McCullough. I had a premonition the Miles McCullough was pitching today. That's the INFJ in me. Who's this guy? The KC pitcher, Noah Cameron, 6 innings every game, and he's given up 1 run in 3 of them. So kind of incomplete, but he is a starter, and he's given up 1 run. So his ERA is good, but only for 4 games. I think we don't have enough sample size there. And Miles McCullough is pretty good. So we'll try it under, but again, no bet. KC under 8. All right. Baltimore, Seattle. Baltimore's not that bad. 23 wins and Seattle 32. And I don't know how without hitting. Baltimore 102, 8.5. Cade Povich 1-4 with the 5.29. Emerson Hancock 2-2 with the 5.64. Neither team hits very well. We got to go over here. We'll go Baltimore over 8.5. Now I'd much rather bet this game under, but with these pitchers both over 5 ERAs, like how can you bet it under? San Diego Frisco first 2 games 1-0 and 3-2, very low scoring. We got Nick Pivetta going for San Diego 6-2 with the 2.74. Kyle Harrison 1-1 with the 2.51. I'm just going to keep going under with it. Under 7. Minnesota and Oakland. Minnesota killed them yesterday. Minnesota minus 190-10. Zebby Matthews. Talk about the team that's streaking the wrong way is Oakland. Zebby Matthews 0-1 with the 6.43. Jeffrey Springs 5-4 with the 4.72. You got to go over with Minnesota over 10 here. I don't see any way. Again, the pitching's so bad. In their last game, the Mets and the Dodgers. Dodgers 159.5. Griffin Canning 5-2 with a 3.23. Tony Gonzalez 3-1. Again, well, I don't know. I would think you could take the Mets as the 150 on a betting. I'm going to go over here. LA over 9.5. I have one bet, and that's Atlanta under 7.5. It's just this is where I excel in the patience, right? Patience is about if it doesn't look good, just wait. Like silver's not going up yet, just wait. Prophet, does he win? Who's he? Fill in the blanks for me. I can't read your mind. Does he win? Because I'm going forward in my topic, so I don't know what you're talking about. You have to be patient and wait. If I'm playing poker, instead of playing 2-7 and 2-8 and 3-4, 3-6, I wait for at least 10 Jack of Diamonds, King Queen, maybe a pair of 7s. I wait for a hand I can play that I can win. I can't win two 8s. How am I going to win it? If I hit the 2, if I hit the 8, the odds on me winning are so slim that it's stupid to invest and waste your time and energy. A lot of it's stoic. What do we say? You don't want to hang around a vampire because he drains your energy. Well, that's how poker is. If you get involved with a lot of hands, it drains your energy. So if you're going to get in hands that you don't really, even if you hit, let's say you have 2-6, even if you hit a 2 or a 6, the odds on winning are slim. So that's the problem. And if you do win it, it's probably no betting because you're not going to bet your twos. Obviously, there's 5 cards on or 4 cards on board higher. So you can't bet your two. So even if you win $5. So it's a stupid hand, but it does drain your energy like a vampire does. The picture in your dreams from last night wasn't in my dreams. It was just I was brushing my teeth and I said, Miles McCullough. And then now I see he's pitching. I don't know. He's pitching tonight. We will see. But that's what I get premonitions a lot. So Boston over 10.5, Houston over 9, Cubs under 8.5, which I don't like, but it's pitching is dictating what I'm doing. The Yankees under 9, Philly over 9, Atlanta under 7.5, our 2-unit bet, Tampa Bay, KC under 8, Baltimore over 8.5, San Diego under 7, Minnesota over 10, and the Dodgers over 9.5. Profit, did I hear about Vegas latest scam? Some of the casinos are now only paying 6 to 5 on blackjack and have added a third zero to the wheel. Well, that's not a scam. I mean, that's just they've killed the see. The problem with that is they've killed the odds, but the problem is, so it's in their benefit, right? But the problem is you've chased everybody out of the casino. So nobody's going to go to Caesars and pay $40 for parking, expensive hotel, expensive restaurants, and expensive gambling. So I'll go somewhere else. And that's just me normally with my economics. Stakes are too high, I'll order chicken or something. So you don't, if you don't feel like you're getting a fair trade, you don't do it, right? So if a steak's $50, we're not ordering steaks yesterday, but it was a reasonable price. But that's what you're doing. It's a fair trade. So what is a fair trade for my Canadian club? What would you be willing to part with it? $50. It's a 12-year. It's Canadian club, high quality. So you would give me $50 and consider that a fair trade. You would rather have the whiskey and I'd rather have the 50. And that's how you look at it. That's how you go shopping. That's how you go on dates. Is it worth it? That's how you buy clothes. That's how you play poker. Is it worth it? So in buying things, so in Vegas, is it worth playing blackjack and only getting 6 to 5? Is it worth playing roulette with 3 zeros on it when you know your odds now got a lot worse unless you're planning on betting on the zero? You can bet on the zeros. I don't recall the odds. I don't think they're uh, 36 to 1, but they should be pretty high because normally there's only 2 zeros and there's 36 numbers. So you should get a pretty big payout there. But they actually aim for the 0 and double zero. They're next to each other on the wheel, I think. I don't know, it's been a while. No, they're next to each other on the table. I think they're on separate parts of the wheel, but they are basically what the dealer aims for in roulette. This is why I play red or black or odd or even and not try to hit the numbers. But even you get screwed on those. If a zero comes up, you lose your odd or even or your red or black because it's green, and B, the zero doesn't count as an even. They're just kind of like, oh, well, nobody had it. Or you can actually bet on the zeros. And but I guess if you made a big enough bet, they would aim for it. If they're good enough to aim for the zero, they're good enough not to aim for the zero. But it's not a scam. It's just they're basically changing the rules on you, changing the odds on you in their favor. They need to win more because all the properties now Vanguard, let's say, owns, or BlackRock owns the hotel and the restaurants and the land, is not owned by Caesars. It's now owned by, let's say, Vanguard. And that's a problem. So that's, but they keep charging them rent. I don't know what Vanguard's goal is to run Caesar's Palace. They don't know how to run it. So if Caesars is giving up, like owning it, and now they're renting the building, that's a problem because they can't control the rent and the rent goes up. They think they need to make more money to pay the rent. And if they're going to cheat people here by changing the true odds, imagine what they're doing in craps if they're doing this in roulette and blackjack. They're definitely, by changing that, is going to they're going to try to make more money. It's like a tax increase, and we know it doesn't work. It always works in reverse. They'll get less money in because people will not go there. Or if people go, they'll just bet on sports or they'll play poker. And that's why I like poker. You don't really get fucked in poker. They can't really do anything to you. I mean, because I'm playing other people. There is no house edge. The guy's dealing it and I'm playing profit. There's no house edge 6-5, 11-10 or anything. There's no odds on in poker. The only thing is the amount of the rake. So if there's $100 in the pot, they might take $6 sort of as maintenance. But they could raise it to 7. But you really don't notice it unless you're playing small pots and you don't win anything. But if you're playing $100 pots and they take 5 or 6 or 7, you really don't notice it. You understand that's part of the game, that you're going to have to pay a rake out of the pot, but I don't think you're going to a different casino because of the rake. I'm not going to go to Venetian where it's a $6 rake versus going to Caesars. So if Caesars rake is $6 and Venetian's is $5, I'm not going to play poker at Venetian for the dollar. But and then judging by what's going on here, I've heard 6-5 blackjack's been around for a while. I didn't hear about this 000 on the roulette wheel. But if Caesars has 3 zeros and Venetian has 2, I'm going to play roulette. I'm going to play it at Venetian because they only have 2 zeros, because I'm really getting killed on my odds. And I assume the odds are different. All right. So let's go through the games. Boston over 10.5, Houston over 9, Cubs under 8.5, Yanks under 9, Philly over 9, Atlanta, the bet, under 7.5, Tampa Bay, KC under 8, Baltimore over 8.5, San Diego under 7, Minnesota over 10, and LA over 9.5. And I realize I've already done that, but what can I say? My mind's leaving me. We did talk college and pro football over the weekend. If there's any questions or comments or things you want to talk about on that, please feel free. NBA tomorrow. Let's see if we got a line. I'm sure I can get a line if Yahoo doesn't have it. Here we go. Game 1. Okay, this 8:30 tomorrow. OKC's 9.5 point favorite with a total of 230. This is actually on ABC. So it gives me the line here, but it doesn't give me the line when I go into the scores. So Thursday at 8:30, which is tomorrow, OKC 9.5, 230. I would bet this would be an over. Game 1, it'll be looser. They're feeling each other out. Indy's going to come in with a passion to win. It's a big number, 9.5. So there's a lot of unknowns. OKC's been playing well. Indiana beat the Knicks. Okay, OKC beat Denver. So, and then they beat Minnesota. So it's hard to say. Um, we'll have to see game one. I would think the bet would be over 230 because Indy seems to score a lot, and so does OKC. So that's 120 to 110, which seems doable. That's 230. So, yeah, I like the over in the first game, and then we'll start betting the teams after that. OKC could win it, but we're not sure with Indy. They played well, and it's game one. Game two, we'll go to the loser. So that's Sunday at 8. So if it is OKC loses, then that's the bet on Sunday. If Indy gets killed, then we got to decide, do we want to bet Indy in game two? I think OKC takes the series 4-2. Thank you, Prophet. Knicks firing Tibbs is shocking, but it's also a major gamble. Well, the coach wasn't bad. He got him into the finals of the AFC. Let's see if we got anything in the NFL. See, I hate these little news. 49ers quarterback for MVP question mark. Here's why there's a pretty good chance. What's the stupidest thing? He'll never win MVP. He's not better than Stafford, and he's not better than Barkley. And you know, he's better than golf, but golf's not that good. Jalen Hurts is not an MVP. It's tough in the NFC. I think it's Barkley. I think Penix and Daniels are the two are much better. I like Daniels probably be the MVP. I would think. Sudden retirement takes a bite out of the Lions' Super Bowl dreams. Their center has retired right now. All pro a few years. Played with a hurt back last year, so I was surprised he played. And now he has to retire because they played him with the hurt back. New Steelers tight end reportedly tears Achilles and OTE out for the season. And that's my point. My plays, Donald Parham signed a 1-year deal with Pitt after spending 4 years with the Chargers. That doesn't mean, but this is the point. This was in OTEs. The guy tears his Achilles. This is why what I gave you for week one, we have to revisit. Now, is that going to change my Steeler pick? No, Aaron Rodgers will. But this happens, like, here's the Lions guy. He gets hurt. Is that going to change my Lions pick? No, but we'll see if Hutchinson plays, which I doubt, and then we'll see the other things. And then who gets injured? The running back gets hurt. The lineman gets hurt. Now we're all over Green Bay. So that's why we got to update our picks until the week of the game. Steelers respond to angry fans after team members give Trump jersey at rally. Don't know why Trump was there. Jim Marshall, prime time blasts foolish reporters about Shadur Sanders. We don't really care. Steelers expect to have a deal with TJ Watt by the start of the season. Eagles confirmed trade of edge rusher Bryce Huff to the rival 49ers. How much defense did Philly lose? Here, Texas quarterback C.J. Stroud dealing with general soreness, not throwing. Which arm is it? Not. Oh, okay. So this is his throwing arm. Hey, there you go. He probably has arthritis in his arm. You want to bet on Houston? Now it makes them a better under because they didn't have offense with them and they got a pretty good defense. Fantasy football. Jake Hayner just mentions notion Saints need to add a veteran quarterback. What's wrong with Hayner? Why aren't they playing him? Here's a comment. It's not crazy to ask if Sam Darnold can hold off Jalen Milrose. Yeah, it is crazy. If Jalen Milrose is your starting quarterback, we're going to bet very heavily on Seattle. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Ayuk. Oh, yeah. See, he's doing an ACL rehab still. All right, it's enough of that. Let's see what we have in videos. Profit. Do you give a projected total wins in college football for the major conferences? No, I don't do any of that crap. I mean, if there's a number, I can give you my opinion on it, but I only worry about um, the game, right? Michigan at Ohio State or whatever. I can't get my YouTube up. Odd. Having a problem with YouTube on my phone. Let's restart it. Well, what are you interested in, Profit? I'm not going to go through every team, and it's 132 teams to guess their over under, which should only be really a guess. Um, it's not something I do because there's too many like injuries here. Let's say Pitt signs Aaron Rodgers. Well, my guess is going to be changed if if Mahomes gets hurt. Well, obviously, the KC one gets changed. In college, I don't know who is the quarterback on half the teams with the stupid NIL crap going on. How about USC? Who's their quarterback going to be? What is the betting? What are you talking about here? What is the betting? I mean, I'd have to see their schedule. I'd have to know their quarterback. Um, they're pretty bad defensively. They suck, and I need to see their schedule. So I can't really do much with that without knowing those key facts, basically. Okay, good. My YouTube came up. So China hits back at the U.S. China freezes U.S. imports as Trump.
Seniors don't look back with regret after finding out that you have less than 24 hours left to claim this historical 20.
Nobody cares.
The U.S. hits back with bans, deep surgical, cutting China off from.
China hit back at U.S. China freezes U.S. imports as Trump imposes tech bans targeting Beijing. What is Trump doing? I mean, the guy's an idiot. You don't do these things. You have free trade. We benefit if China, is allowed to freely trade. So now, what Trump looks like an idiot. He's banning things that we need for what reason? For tariffs. Let's see. So there's a lot of talk on this China and US, the tariffs and everything else. There's a trade collapse. Europe wiped out $2 trillion, kills.
Including steel, aluminum, cars.
Europe wiped out $2 trillion, kills $43 billion Boeing deal, joins Canada as Trump's 50% tariffs backfire. So again, what's happening is these countries are just substituting. The U.S. wants to tariff them. They don't do business with the U.S., but Europe can do business with Europe and China and Russia and all these others. So we're isolating ourselves, and that's not a good thing because we need things from other countries. So again, this is a big mistake. Let's watch a little of this, I guess.
Agri-food and what do you call it when a U.S. president slaps a 50% tariff on Europe? And Europe fires back by torching a $43 billion Boeing deal, rerouting trade through Canada and triggering a $2 trillion shift in global commerce. Not a dispute, a controlled breakup. While Washington brags about leverage and rants over steel and peanut butter, Brussels is cutting new deals, courting China, and rewriting the rules, without the U.S. in the room. This isn't a warning. This is the exit. And by the time America looks up, it may already be locked out. A $43 billion aircraft deal just vanished. EU trade with the US is unraveling and markets are reeling. But the question now isn't whether the US and Europe are in a trade war. It's whether the transatlantic alliance just collapsed under the weight of a 50% tariff.
All right, so it hurts Europe if they cancel this Boeing deal. Obviously, they needed new planes to travel. So by canceling the deal, are they going to another like Airbus or something to get those? So they need the planes. They just won't use Boeing. Was Boeing more expensive? Why aren't they? They're not with the tariff. They're now made too expensive. So, with that said, you hurt Boeing with this 50% tariff, and then you hurt Europe where they wanted it. It was probably the best price. Now they have to go with the secondary airline. no good comes out of it, and then they don't build it, and now you're not going to get your tariffs because they're not going to apparently use it. So they'll go a different direction. So if I'm going to tariff profit for making Canadian club, and I say, well, I'm going to tariff you 50%. He says, well, screw you. I'm not going to sell it to you. I'll sell it to China at my price. And it only hurts me because I can't get the Canadian club. And he avoids the tariff by selling to a different country. Well, that's exactly what is the point of it. So he sells it to somebody else. He's fine, and he doesn't have to pay these tariffs. But who does it hurt? The U.S., because now they don't have Canadian club to buy. Only, let's say it's steel or aluminum or other goods that are needed, and we can't buy them. So that's what we're doing with China. We're saying, well, we're gonna tax you an extra 50%. We don't have the right to do that. We're not China. We can't tax them. Oh, you want to do business with us? Then there's going to be a tariff, a 50% tariff. Yeah, you know what? I won't do business with you then. Well, we're the consumers. We have a lot of fake dollars that are worthless. Don't you want these? See, this is the part that nobody's getting. Do you want this? Are you going to build a car or a plane or a boat and get paid in this shit? And if you do, you're going to run and buy gold with it. You're not going to want to hold it. So this is the problem with tariffs.
On May 30th, President Trump declared negotiations with the EU going nowhere and called for an immediate 50% blanket tariff on all European imports starting June 1st, including steel, aluminum, cars, agri-food.
Ladies, pay close attention. You're using salt the wrong way. If your goal is to lose belly fat, you need to use it the right way.
Including steel, aluminum, cars, agri-food, and electronics. Within 48 hours, European stocks fell 2.1%, and Boeing faced the real possibility of losing its largest export contract on record. According to Bloomberg, the potential loss to U.S. trade volume exceeds $2 trillion over the next decade if retaliatory EU measures materialize. Former EU negotiator Ignacio Garcia Berchero told Euronews, if the U.S. won't reverse course, Europe has no choice but to escalate. But what comes after escalation? Europe may already have the answer, and it's not across the Atlantic. The European Commission didn't hesitate. In direct response to Trump's 50% tariff order, Brussels confirmed it was finalizing a second retaliation package targeting $95 billion in U.S. goods, while quietly moving to freeze a €43 billion Boeing aircraft deal. Reuters reports that Ryanair's $30 billion order of 737 MAX jets is also now under review, with CEO Michael O'Leary stating that Boeing's rising costs are no longer sustainable. Meanwhile, Airbus surged 3.4% on the Frankfurt Exchange, and China's COMAC is suddenly in the conversation. An EU airline buying Chinese jets, once unthinkable, is now being modeled in Brussels trade forecasts. The U.S. aerospace sector, already down 6.2% year-to-date on investor concerns over supply chain bottlenecks, now faces structural contraction. But the real danger? This wasn't just a response to tariffs. It was a trial run for what life without Boeing and without America might look like. When the EU slapped counter tariffs on American staples like Harley-Davidsons, Levi's, and peanut butter, it wasn't just optics. It was a direct hit on sectors tied to politically sensitive states. Harley's 2024 EU exports dropped 30% year over year. And the company is now projecting $145 million in lost revenue through Q3 2025. But it was American agriculture that took the sharpest blow. U.S. farm exports to Europe plunged by $23.2 billion, according to the USDA. Wisconsin-based dairy co-op Land O'Lakes cited immediate operational strain following the EU's hike on butter and cheese tariffs. Meanwhile, the U.S. trade deficit hit a record $140.5 billion in early 2025, contradicting claims that tariffs would strengthen domestic output. As Bloomberg noted, tariffs meant to protect have instead exposed fragile dependencies. But the real pivot wasn't fiscal. It was geopolitical. The EU didn't just retaliate, it reoriented. While Washington burned diplomatic bridges, Ottawa built one. Under CETA, the EU and Canada eliminated 98% of tariffs, creating a frictionless corridor now projected by the European Commission to facilitate over 90 billion euros in trade annually by 2026.
So Trump's killing America, and the question is he doing it on purpose, or is he just the dumbest person we've ever seen run a country? This is the question. Is he really this stupid? Or is there some sort of plan? And I think it's George Soros pulling the strings and basically saying, George Soros being George Soros wanting to kill America. And that's what he's doing. Because when you do tariffs, and you can see what's happening, they're all substituting. Europe's dealing with Canada. They're not buying Land O'Lakes products, meat and cheese and butter and stuff. I always buy Land O'Lakes butter. So they're killing Land O'Lakes business, because if I have 5 customers and then I raise my price, I'm probably only going to have 3 customers. So I got to be careful raising my price. If I make Canadian Club $50, now I make it $100, I'm going to lose customers. That's for sure. So I don't want to piss off my customers. And what's Trump doing? Is pissing off his customers. No, it's too expensive. Why should I pay a tax? Isn't that what the whole Revolutionary War was in 1776? We didn't want to pay tax to the King of England. We said, fuck you, you're in England, we're here. We're not going to pay you a tax. And that's what the war was about. It's always about taxes, right? It's always about money. And therefore, he didn't want to pay. And then therefore, he didn't. And so you're left with this nonsense of non-paying. So anyway, so anytime you raise prices, people will substitute. We ate at the Texas Roadhouse yesterday. If it was $50 for steaks, we would have went somewhere else. You're not the only game in town. Unless you have a monopoly, you have to play free market economics. You have to compete. The U.S. doesn't want to compete. The U.S. thinks there's no competition. We'll raise our tariff, so we'll make things. So let's say you're at Kroger's, and then they raise all their prices triple. Are they the only grocery store? I believe there's Walmart's and Meijer's and Target, and there's other. You can't. McDonald's can't raise their prices to $20 for hamburger. Everybody go to Wendy's. The U.S. wants to raise tariffs. Everybody's going to a different country. We're not the only ones we don't really make anything. Our technology maybe is what sells the Apple with the iPhones, but most of that shit's done in China now. GM and Ford with the cars. Germany kills us. Japan kills us. So there's really not anything we do very well. So I don't get this protectionism stuff. Buy American. Who gives a fuck? You're not going to buy American because we're Austrian economists. You're going to buy the things that are the best. You're going to buy the best quality and the best price. And you don't care who it's made in. It could be China, it could be Japan, could be the UK, Canada. We don't care. When I go to the grocery store, I want, okay, there's Land O'Lakes butter, there's Meijer brand butter. The quality is better with Land O'Lakes. However, if Land O'Lakes price is twice as high as the Meijer's and my money's tight, I might buy the Meijer's brand. Butter's butter. Nobody has a monopoly. And Tesla hasn't learned that. Their prices are way high and they can't compete. So this is the problem with tariffs. You think you can raise tariffs. Oh, if you want to sell to me, I'm going to tariff you. Is ridiculous. It just doesn't work. That's like me paying to go buy it at Costco or Sam's Club. I'm not paying you to shop there. I can go to Walmart and get everything probably very close in price for not paying to go there. Now, I'm sure there's some things like I think they have tires and other products at a Costco that are cheaper. I mean, mostly it's bulk, so you can buy the real big thing of Cheerios and it's cheaper, but then you got 80 ounces of Cheerios or cornflakes. So you got to be careful with that. I mean, they do have some good deals, but it's the idea of paying to like if we would have went to the restaurant and we had to pay to eat there. I mean, we bought the food to eat there, but if we had to pay $20 to go in to then order to then buy the food and eat them, we never would have went in. I mean, you can't do that because your competition doesn't do that. So tariffs, this is the problem. Then everybody tariffs you back, and you end up broke and bankrupt, which is where we're like this far away. And then what do we do? And we don't have gold to do anything. That's our problem. We have no gold. We're not buying the gold now, so I don't know. It's crazy. Let's.
With U.S. tariffs driving up steel and auto prices by double digits, European firms like Siemens and Alstom have begun shifting procurement pipelines toward Quebec and Ontario. According to a May 2025 Financial Times report, Canadian EU clean tech trade rose 41% year over year, led by a €1.2 billion hydrogen deal signed at last year's EU-Canada Clean Technology Summit. And while the U.S. shut itself out of climate-related funding, Canada offered open market access aligned with EU labor, digital, and environmental standards. Former Canadian Trade Minister Chrystia Freeland remarked in a recent Globe and Mail op-ed, "What began as a free trade deal has evolved into a strategic partnership. But the most telling sign of the shift, Europe is treating Canada not as a neighbor of the US, but as its replacement." This isn't just a tariff skirmish. It's the unraveling of the Western trade consensus. In just 10 weeks, a series of escalating duties, from 10% on aluminum to 50% across the board, have triggered retaliatory protocols, WTO complaints, and the potential voiding of at least 2 transatlantic mega deals. The EU has suspended a €21 billion retaliation package until July 15th, but is preparing a second list targeting $95 billion in U.S. exports, pending the outcome of talks. According to CNBC, White House officials do not interpret Trump's posts as formal policy. Yet European Commission spokesperson Olaf Gill stated publicly on June 2nd, "We are finalizing countermeasures that will take effect on July 14th or earlier." In other words, even if a deal is theoretically possible, time is mathematically running out. And behind the numbers sits the deeper rupture. Washington is escalating. Brussels is realigning. And the deadline is now less about tariffs and more about who the EU chooses to depend on next. While the US escalated tariffs, the EU quietly shifted gears, pouring investment into clean tech and trade infrastructure to reduce American reliance.
So nobody wants to play with the US, and Trump is blind to it. Trump, everybody's substituting away from, they're going to Canada and Europe, and Trump's just sitting there. Trump needs to react to it. It's sort of like football. They're blitzing the quarterback. Well, you better call screen passes, and you better have a receiver staying in block or a tight end. You've got to adjust to what they're doing. And he's not adjusting to what everybody's doing. He's causing the problem and not adjusting to it. Absolutely. I've never seen an idiot more than that. Now, I'm not a Camilla Harris person. That would have been 100 times worse. My problem is the people who run for president. What are you doing? This is what we get? Is these people, God, little hair or something. This is what we get are these idiots who run the government. That's my point. Trump shouldn't even be in the office, or Camilla Harris. you can't. I don't think you can have elections anymore where it's so expensive and it's all corrupt and it's George Soros putting the guy in and the Bitcoiners putting the guy in. I mean, what is that? That's not an election. And you're not getting good candidates. You're getting candidates who will do favors for somebody. So I don't know who Trump's doing favors for, but it's killing the country, and he doesn't care because he's getting money for it. And then he's too old. So this is the problem. You don't. What are you doing? So this is the big problem I have with government and elections. They don't. They can't see it. Trump doesn't make, oh, I'm going to do more tariffs. Well, yeah, but what you're doing is forcing everybody not to trade with us, which is wrong. We don't want protectionism. We don't want to live just America, right? Am I going to be able to travel to Europe or go to Singapore or wherever, go to Switzerland? And are we going to be able to travel? I mean, because people are probably going to look at us and go, oh, you're an American. We're gonna tariff you or something like that. I mean, that's really the problem you have is that's the problem you have is can you even travel? The people are you even oh sorry, no Americans here because you guys tariff and tax. Although before they wanted our money, now if our money's worthless, are they going to want our money? It's very dangerous what he's doing. He's alienating us, and people around here walk around with their heads cut off like they don't understand there's a debt, that there's tariffs, or tariffs are good, and the Federal Reserve is good. People think the Federal Reserve is good. I talked to that vampire. Oh, that's how we became a great country. Look at all the expansion. No, that wasn't because of the Federal Reserve. Well, they printed money. No, 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 no. That's not good. That makes the money worthless. You didn't need to print the money to get the expansion. People just expand. Oh, let's come out with a toaster. Oh, let's come out with a refrigerator. Let's come out with a TV, a computer. You don't need the Federal Reserve to get money to do that. The banks will loan you money, um, or you got the gold to do it. You don't. The Fed doesn't create a laptop or AI or whatever you're talking about. It's got nothing to do with the Federal Reserve. I mean, if that's the case, why is the Federal Reserve broke? Why do we have 37 trillion in debt? Yet we still now we're doing AI. I mean, so no, that's the Federal Reserve hurts the country, doesn't help the country, does not create productivity. It does not create new things. Like the cell phone was not created because of the Federal Reserve, nor was the VCR, nor was cable TV or these apps, better computers, Bitcoin. None of it is done by the Federal Reserve. Why people think that if we didn't have it, we wouldn't have that. Look at the 1800s. We did a lot in the 1800s without a central bank. Why would we want us? The central banks are bad, and they don't stimulate. Oh well, that way we could have money to do that. You'd have money to do it anyway. Do you think everybody in the 1800s were poor? J.P. Morgan and the Rothschilds and all these other Standard Oil guy and the Rockefellers, they were rich. They didn't have a central bank. I don't know what. I don't know where people get this shit from. It's just it's insanity. All right, enough with the tariffs in China. Putin bans return of Western giants, Microsoft and McDonald's. So they've already come out with a McDonald's, Russian McDonald's. And if McDonald's goes back, they would have to compete with them, number one, which they probably feel they can't. And, you left, screw you. So Microsoft can't come back there or McDonald's. Let's see. There was a stoic one I'm looking for. All right. Here's a stoic one. 13 unacceptable behaviors that Carl Jung warns us not to tolerate.
Carl Jung believed what you allow into your life slowly becomes part of you. Here are 13 behaviors no man should tolerate, ever. 1. Passive aggression. If they can't say it directly, it's manipulation. 2. Emotional dumping. You're not their therapist, you're their target. 3. Guilt tripping. Jung called this psychological warfare in disguise. 4. Chronic victimhood. People who avoid responsibility infect you with their weakness. 5. Envy masked as support. Watch their eyes when you win. That's the truth. 6th. Boundary testing. Once they break one, they'll test everyone after. 7. Blame shifting. If you're always the problem, you're not in a relationship, you're in a trap. 8. Silent treatment. That's not silence, that's control. 9. Consistent sarcasm. Jung said it's the coward's way to express hostility. 10. Disrespecting your time. The moment they waste it, they show you how little you matter. 11th. People who twist your words. Jung believed distortion of truth is a sign of a fractured psyche, and a dangerous one. 12. Those who make you doubt your instincts. Gaslighting is soul theft, and your intuition is not up for negotiation. 13. People who mock your growth. If they laugh when you evolve, it's because your healing threatens their stagnation. One. Emotional detachment. Emotional detachment. You give nothing away, no highs, no lows. They crave a reaction, but you stay ice cold. 2. Controlled silence. You disappear without explanation, no drama, no goodbyes. They keep checking, wondering. 3rd. Ruthless standards. You don't beg, you don't chase. They either rise to your level or watch you walk. 4. Mystery overexposure. You reveal only 10% of who you are. The rest, locked behind quiet confidence. 5. Unapologetic focus. You're too busy building your empire to entertain games. That makes you unforgettable. 6th, strategic indifference. You're not rude. You just don't care for validation. They can feel it, and they hate it. 7. Never over-explaining. You let your actions sting louder than excuses. That silence, it haunts them. 1. Emotional detachment.
So this is 5 times you should stay silent. That's what this video was. I thought they would get into it with it. Here's they're controlling you silently. 5 signs you're dealing with a maniac.
A master manipulator doesn't shout. They control with silence and charm. Here are 5 signs you're in their presence. 1, they confuse you, then comfort you, creating chaos, then pretending to be your peace. 2, they redirect instead of deny, dodging truth without ever facing it. 3, they make you feel guilty for setting boundaries, twisting self-respect into selfishness. 4, they weaponize your empathy, using your kindness as a tool of control. 5, they quietly destroy your confidence, small jabs that make you doubt yourself. A stoic sees through manipulation, calm, clear, and unshaken. A master manipulator doesn't shout.
So all kinds of goodies here. So here's one on China freezing U.S. imports.
Want to know how I got my entire roof replaced for less than half what my neighbors paid?
Nobody cares.
Surgical cutting China off from the lifeblood of advanced chips. Imagine it starts with a whisper. China halts rare earth exports. No announcement. No press conference. Just silence. And suddenly the gears of global tech begin to grind. In Washington, alarms go off. The U.S. hits back with bans. Deep, surgical, cutting China off from the lifeblood of advanced chips and chemical flows. Wall Street smirks. They've seen this movie. It's another bluff. Until the dollar breaks formation and begins to fall. Not a crash. Not a spike. A controlled descent. Quiet. Relentless. 5 straight months. No bottom in sight. This isn't a trade war. It's a systemic fracture. And it didn't begin with tariffs. It began with a spreadsheet. In May, deep within bureaucratic corridors, Washington quietly threatened a global tax revolt, collapsed trade talks, and flooded American banks with a toxic bond inventory no one wanted. Behind the curtain, even allies started cashing out. Trump called it strategy. The market called it what it was: controlled demolition in slow motion. Then came the fiction. Trump emerged, claiming he saved China from collapse. Civil unrest, mass factory shutdowns, internal chaos. His words painted an image of Beijing on the edge. No evidence. Bloomberg called it a fantasy. China's industrial output in reality surged 6.2% in April. But a deal was made, or something like it. A 90-day tariff pause. U.S. duties cut to 30%, China's to 10%. A diplomatic bandage. Yet on the very same day, the Commerce Department struck again. Software blacklists, chemical supply blocks, export licenses revoked without warning. Washington called it containment. Beijing said nothing. But silence here isn't absence. It's intent. A message: this isn't over. Treasury Secretary Scott Bent raced to Geneva, trying to put the fire out before it spread. He carved out a truce, $145 billion in tariffs temporarily neutralized, but China barely responded. Rare earth exports remained choked. No acceleration, no compliance, just delays. Strategic delays. When asked, Trade Rep Jameson Greer admitted it plainly. The minerals still aren't moving. And China? They played it cool, saying only that they follow international norms and dual-use review. Translation: we move when we choose, not when you ask. This isn't bureaucracy. It's pressure. It's China holding the knife at the artery of American tech. And Washington? Scrambling, cornered, bleeding credibility with every breath. Meanwhile, Wall Street turned the chaos into comedy. The Financial Times coined it the Trump takeoff strategy. Threaten tariffs. Watch markets tank. Then retreat. Watch markets soar. Rinse. Repeat. Investors got wise. The S&P 500 jumped 2.1% on May 28th, the moment Trump delayed a 50% tariff on Europe. Traders had seen the loop, built algorithms around it. But then Moody's stepped in, downgrading the U.S. credit outlook, calling out the instability behind the show. Because if Trump breaks the cycle, if he refuses to back down, those same markets that bet on his bluff may find themselves naked when the tide goes out. This isn't about stocks anymore. It's about perception, about whether Washington still follows rules or just makes them up as it goes. Then came the data, not a slowdown, a collapse. April import numbers nosedived nearly 20%, the sharpest single-month drop ever recorded. Consumer spending, the engine of America's GDP, flatlined at 0.1% growth. From 0.7% in March to statistical inertia. Households stopped buying. They're living off what they've already stocked. And behind that, rising prices, rising fear, and a government that thought it could weaponize trade without hitting itself. Exports aren't rising. The whole trade feedback loop is unraveling. Demand is evaporating. Liquidity is cracked. Washington pulled the trigger, and now it's getting caught in the recoil. And then there's the dollar, once unshakable, now bleeding strength. Since December, the dollar index has dropped nearly 5%. June will mark the 5th straight month in decline. That's not market noise. That's systemic doubt. A slow, confident vote of no confidence. Foreign holdings in U.S. assets, $7.5 trillion, much of it from Asia, built over decades of trust, trade, and predictability. That trust is eroding. Fast. Treasury yields swing.
So when does the dollar go out? When everybody loses confidence. And you just heard a lot of people are losing confidence in the dollar. Nobody wants it. It's worthless. Nobody wants it. It's worthless. It's coming. When is it going to crash? Soon. I don't know the trigger, but this is part of the trigger. Nobody wants it. You're giving us tariffs, so we're gonna shop somewhere. We'll find another country to sell our goods to. China's got the goods everybody needs, so they sell to somebody else. So that's the question. When does the dollar collapse? When nobody wants it. And they just said nobody wants it. It's collapsing. The demand for dollars are out. So keep that in mind. Besides the $37 trillion debt, nobody wants the dollar. Now, is this Trump's end game? I'm going to kill the U.S. so I get out of the debt. Is this my only way out of paying the $37 trillion? Is crashing my dollar? I didn't crash it. It was, it's not the tariffs. Everybody was doing, China did this and Canada did that, and Mexico did this and Russia did that, and I don't know. And the dollar collapsed. So you can blame other people. That could be his end game to get out of the debt. We don't, because when the dollar goes, this is what my point's been. When the dollar goes, your house is worth zero, your car is worth zero. There is no more value because it's all priced in dollars. And that's the key to it. So this could be his end game, right? Nobody will want the dollar. It'll go worthless. I can't pay 37 trillion. And then we're going to come out with USD number 2. And we come out with USD number 2, and that's it. And then there's no more debt. We'll start over. But all the assets lose all their value. All the bonds lose all their value. Your house loses its value in dollar. Again, it comes back when you have gold-backed currency. Well, what are we going to come out with? Digital currency needs to be backed. Bitcoin needs to be backed by gold if it has any hope. But it's not. It's a person-to-person thing. So me giving money to Luke and Bitcoin and Luke giving money, but we're not going to the grocery store. We're not traveling. We're not buying tennis rackets with Bitcoin. They don't want it. So that's the biggest thing you have there is the Bitcoin being not backed by anything and not really nobody wants to sell it. So it's not like this. We're not really selling the dollar. We're getting paid and we're paying things with the dollar. And we take the dollar when we buy stocks, we buy gold or silver or Bitcoin. You're doing it with the dollar, but in Bitcoin itself, if you want that to be a currency, then you need to trade it. You need to buy things with it. People need to accept it. There's no acceptance. That's why I say Bitcoin's not money. It's like a baseball card. Oh, you have a Bitcoin. Oh, that's like a Mickey Mantle card. The problem is if I have $106,000, I'm not buying a Bitcoin. Where do I think Bitcoin's going? But my Mantle card will probably go to $1 million, or my Montana rookie. I'd rather have that, or I'd rather have a bunch of gold. So gold we know is going up, and it's at 33. Let's call it 33.75 now. Let's call it 3,400. Keep it even. So it's 3,400. What are the odds on gold going to 10,000? Like 99%. What are the odds on Bitcoin moving? So Bitcoin's at 105,000. Is that going to 200,000? Only in fantasy land, not in real world. Plus, when the dollar goes out, the Bitcoin's worthless. So then gold is gold. Gold has its own, is money. So you don't need, it's not dependent on the dollar for value. It's got its own value because it's gold. Just like a Rolex, it's got a value because it's a Rolex or a Picasso or a Mantle card. They have the value because of what they are. We don't know what Bitcoin is. That's the struggle with it. But even so, I'd rather have 100,000 in gold that's going to go up 5 times, and now it's worth 500,000. Is Bitcoin going to 500,000? I doubt. I mean, based on what? Demand? People aren't going to run into Bitcoin when the dollar collapses. They're going to run into gold and silver. And that's when you'll see gold run up. So gold can easily triple or more, but Bitcoin, I don't see how it could. So that's the biggest thing. But the point was people are, maybe that's Trump's plan is to bankrupt the U.S. to get out of the debt. Maybe he thinks we'll never pay the debt off, so I can't get rid of the 37 trillion. The only way is to collapse everything using these tariffs as the sleight of hand, and then with the tariffs going up and nobody doing business with us, then we can, we can't pay off the debt. We got to collapse the dollar. It's worthless. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to do business with us. Maybe that's his plan. That's the only thing I can see. Nobody can possibly be this stupid, but it's not what all he has to do is have gold and let gold run to 50,000 an ounce. He pays off the debt that way. But they're not in there. I thought he was a gold guy. George Soros has a lot of the Nazi gold, so he's obviously a gold guy. I don't know. I guess the mafia is not into gold, although you would think they would be in it. So it's hard to really figure out what's going on. But this is a big problem. So I think that could be his end game. A little bit more of this.
Fiscal discipline has given way to political chaos. Global investors are watching a once stable empire flirt with self-sabotage. And so here we stand, the dollar slipping, imports crashing, markets betting on chaos, trade reduced to theater. China holds the scalpel. Washington writes the script in real time. Every move feels improvised, every promise conditional, every truce temporary. Something fundamental has shifted.
Do not let them increase your home insurance rates. I used to feel powerless watching my
Something fundamental has shifted. This isn't about a deal anymore. It's about whether the global system, trade, finance, power, can survive a world where the anchors no longer hold. Even traditionally steadfast investors, the so-called sticky capital that anchors markets in times of volatility, are beginning to reassess their positions. The belief that the US dollar will always be a safe haven is no longer taken as a given. A weakening dollar, under ordinary circumstances, might be expected to boost exports by making American goods cheaper abroad. But these aren't ordinary times. Export volumes are in free fall, burdened by trade frictions and global supply chain dislocations, while consumer spending, long the engine of U.S. economic growth, is now flatlining. This isn't just a story of numbers. It's a story of perception unraveling. The true risk isn't limited to capital outflows. It's a collapse of the narrative itself. For decades, the strength of the US dollar has served as the bedrock of global finance, the core pillar of a system that relies on trust, predictability, and perceived stability. But what happens when that trust begins to fray? What happens when the perception of strength evaporates and the dollar is no longer seen as invulnerable? The very architecture of the global economic order begins to wobble. If foreign capital starts to trickle out, the worry isn't about a leak. It's about whether that trickle becomes a deluge. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent remains publicly confident, insisting that China will return to the negotiating table once former President Trump makes his policy preferences clear. But that confidence appears to be built on thin air. There is no observable evidence that Beijing is prepared to capitulate. On the contrary, China has held its ground with remarkable consistency, showing no signs of retreat. Even Japan, whose economy is intricately interwoven with the US, with some 28% of its GDP tied directly to American trade, has resisted American pressure to yield. Meanwhile, the data paints a stark picture. The U.S. trade deficit has swollen to an eye-watering $1.22 trillion, up sharply from $850 billion in 2021. That's a 41% increase in just 4 years, according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. At the same time, America's net international investment position, essentially the balance of what the U.S. owns abroad versus what it owes, has plunged to negative $26 trillion. It's a historic low that reveals just how deeply foreign entities have come to own slices of the American economy, from real estate to government bonds to equity stakes in major firms. All the while, Washington continues to accuse others of manipulating global systems, of gaming the rules for unfair advantage. But the irony is inescapable. The United States has been running enormous fiscal deficits, financing them with freshly printed dollars, and calling the whole thing a demonstration of strength. But what happens when the lenders, the foreign investors who buy U.S. debt and fund America's economic ambitions, begin to lose faith in the borrower? The signs are already flashing red. In May 2025, U.S. Treasuries posted their first monthly loss of the year, with total returns falling 1.2% across all maturities, according to Bloomberg. Since 2020, long-duration bonds have lost more than 7% in value. Even when accounting for coupon payments, regional banks, already reeling from the aftershocks of the SVB crisis, are now sitting on $413 billion in unrealized losses, per Federal Reserve data. These losses echo the vulnerabilities that brought some of those banks to the brink just months ago. As foreign appetite for treasuries continues to decline, these same banks may be asked, or forced, to absorb an ever greater share of new government debt issuances. But here's the bind. They can't mark those losses to market without setting off alarm bells across the financial system. Doing so would risk shattering public confidence or, worse, triggering solvency fears. And yet, despite these warning signs, Secretary Bessent wants Wall Street to increase its purchases of treasuries. This isn't just poor timing, it's the embodiment of a policy trap. We're in a situation where the would-be buyers are constrained, capital-starved, and skittish, while sellers, namely the federal government, are desperate to offload trillions in debt to keep the machinery running. Layered into this crisis is a legal wildcard. Deep inside Trump's proposed Big Beautiful Bill lies Section 899, a quietly inserted clause with potentially seismic consequences. The provision is so vaguely worded that it could, in effect, impose capital controls without actually calling them that. It empowers the U.S. Treasury to unilaterally determine whether other countries are applying unfair foreign taxes, and to retaliate by imposing higher taxes on companies or investors from those nations. According to analysts at J.P. Morgan, the clause could ensnare firms operating under OECD-compliant digital service tax regimes, potentially targeting key allies like France, the UK, and others. The timing couldn't be worse. This bill lands just as the Treasury plans to auction approximately $300 billion in new debt this quarter, according to the Congressional Budget Office. And with foreign participation in bond auctions having dropped to 57%, down from 72% just a year ago, the risk of backlash is high. If global investors believe their capital could be penalized or trapped, they'll retreat, not gradually, but decisively. If that happens, the US doesn't just lose a funding source. It risks transforming its own currency into a quarantine zone, an asset to be avoided, not embraced. The Geneva Truce was supposed to represent a shift toward diplomacy. Yet nearly 3 weeks later, China hasn't eased its restrictions on rare earth exports. At the same time, Trump is threatening new auto tariffs on Europe. Bessent's assurance of a forthcoming Trump-Xi phone call remains speculative at best. Meanwhile, American consumer demand is sputtering. Inflation is holding at 2.3%, and bond auctions are increasingly being underwritten by
Did he say 2.3% inflation? Oh my God. This is where they lose me because they're idiots to think that.
Regional banks, not robust institutional players. Student visa revocations, semiconductor export bans, and deepening tech sector restrictions have widened the rift beyond trade. It's now ideological. Reuters, China's Ministry of Commerce has called on the U.S. to correct its wrong practices, a phrase that has historically signaled coming retaliatory measures. Diplomacy requires mutual respect and dialogue. Trade demands predictability and trust. At this moment, the U.S. appears to lack both. The question has moved beyond who will blink first. Now it's whether either side still believes there's anything left to salvage. We've arrived at a precarious inflection point. A fragile trade truce is showing signs of unraveling. The dollar's mystique is eroding. The economy, still coasting on inertia, is pushing its luck. Treasury auctions are struggling to attract meaningful interest. Consumer spending is decelerating. Foreign capital is no longer loyal. It's quietly reassessing its options. And yet, Washington barrels forward, brandishing tariffs in one hand and policy ultimatums in the other, still betting on assumptions that the data no longer support. So ask yourself, if China refuses to budge, if foreign investors disengage, and if American banks take on more exposure than they can accurately price, what breaks first? The bond market, the dollar, or the illusion that anyone is still in control? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because if this standoff...
All right, I wanted to show you this viral cervical neck pillow.
What if one of the largest capital shifts in modern history was already in motion, and the world, caught up in the noise of daily headlines and political theater, barely noticed? Beneath the surface of news cycles that spin stories for clicks rather than clarity, something profound is taking shape. It isn't dramatic in appearance. There are no fiery speeches or breaking news alerts. It's quiet, strategic, deliberate. A financial rebellion is underway, one that could reshape the global economic order. And yet, most in the West continue to look away. While Washington clings to
So basically, what they're talking about is BRICS and Asia move away from the dollar and $7.5 million shift. So it all comes down to there's just no demand. Nobody wants to play. There's no demand for the dollar, and it's worthless. I mean, we're on the Titanic, and the boat hit the iceberg, and we're sinking. But people still don't believe we're going to sink until we're about 90% down. And I'm yelling at 30% into the water, we're sinking, and nobody's listening. And then at 90%, people go, shit, the boat is sinking because it's mostly in the water. And we're at about 80% where the boat sunk. And I'm yelling, get into the light boats, the gold and silver. And nobody wants to, in America, wants to realize the dollar is worthless. It's worthless when there's no demand. And you printed it to death. And don't tell me inflation's 2%. In what world is inflation 2%? Well, prices aren't going up. Well, that might be because the market's not there, but that still doesn't mean you're not printing the money to death. So the money printing is far more than 2%. Prices have gone up. It's like, can I see what you're pricing? What the fuck are you talking about? I mean, you go to the grocery store and everything's more than 2%. Cars are up, houses are up. The hell are you talking about 2% inflation? And yet, people, for some reason, people believe it. Well, they say it's 2%, it's 2%. People don't even know what it is. So again, inflation is, gold was $35 in 1971. It's now 30, let's call it 3,400. That is not 2%. And you can't go year over year. You have to go, let's look at gold year over year, right? So 1 year thing on gold. So if we use gold as our inflation guide, 33.81. We're getting near our 30. We'll be at 34 by the end of the week. And if we look at, so here's 1 year. Okay. If we go back 20 years, it's up 600%, not 3%. If we just go year over year, gold's gone up 42%. How is that 2% inflation when it cost me, when gold's gone up $1,000 in a year? That's 2%. So that means gold last year was selling at basically 2,300. It's now 3,300. How is that 2%? And they're calling it 42%. That's not even close to your inflation number, but that, if you wanted to look at inflation year over year, it's 42%. And if we want to go back 20 years, it's 700%. And we got to go all the way back to 1971 when it was, so that's 50 years. I mean, it's like what, probably 5,000%. How are you getting 2%? Well, we don't count gold, and we don't count, let's even look at silver. Silver for the year is up 14.9%. Even we know how heavily manipulated and price fixed that is. 15%, let's call it. How is inflation 2%? I mean, it just blows your mind. And these are manipulated prices that are price fixed by JP Morgan, and yet they're still up a lot, right? Gold's still up 42%. So your inflation is minimal 42%, but that's with JP Morgan pushing the price down. If they would just let it run free. So again, what do they look at 5 items that have only gone up 2% and say, inflation's 2%? And yet, when people say this, is anybody besides us questioning the inflation? Does anybody question that inflation is not 2%? That you don't know what the fuck you're doing, that the inflation is not year over year, and that, that might be one look, but that's not real inflation. You got to go back to 71. But even if you go back a year, gold's 40, 43, 44%. So that would be your inflation. So I don't know what they're using for prices. It's totally fucked. They're totally wrong. I mean, let's just use price fixed gold's 42%. Yeah, it's 2%. So this is why it's very hard to listen to these idiots. And you must ask questions. Like I said, when I was in the interview and he said, do you have any questions? I says, do you know why gold's 2,500 an ounce? No, I don't. Okay, I'll see you later. Because if you're a finance director or something, those are questions you need to ask to how to run your company. Because you don't know how to run your company if you can't understand why gold is up, why gold is 2,500. Because you should be buying it. Like I said, if I'm running a company, if I'm running GM, we're not selling a car. We're just dumping our money in the gold, and I'm laying everybody off, and I'm just sitting there going, oh, I'll wait till gold goes up. Basically, I'm running my own company right now. This is the professor's company. We buy gold and silver. Made 42% last year and 15% in silver. And as we were discussing last night, a lot of people have a lot of silver, and that's why it's really tension is that why isn't silver going? Why is it 34.54? Why is gold up $29 and silver's up 6 cents? This is the problem. Everybody has silver. We're going to retire when silver goes to $500 an ounce. What the fuck's going on? And we can't. And it's 34.54. I mean, what is that? That's absolutely ridiculous. So to say inflation is lower than 44%, which is what gold's gone up, is insanity. And to say it's done year over year is more insanity. Inflation is not prices. It is not year over year. It's money printing. And we know they print the shit out of it. All the treasuries are money printing. That's what money printing is. They're printing the treasury bills. And the banks print money out of thin air for new loans, car loans, housing loans, and strip mall. And if you're going to build a building, Empire State Building or something, that's all printing the money. But because there's not as much growth, there's not as much lending going on. So that's really it. There's no demand for the dollar. These tariffs are killing it. I'm really going to go and if I really use my INFJ instinct, I'm going to say Trump's doing this to bankrupt us to get rid of the debt. It's the only thing that makes sense. He can't be this stupid. Well, he could be, but why would you keep doing the tariffs? All it's doing is raising costs for these. If you want to deal with America, China, you got to pay 50% tariffs. So China says, well, I don't want to deal with America. Well, what do? We need the goods. Well, okay, on cell phones from Apple and computers, I won't tariff you. What the fuck are you talking about? And it's not like we can now, hopefully we'll start getting goods from Korea and Vietnam and India to replace China, but he's tariffing those too. Tariffs are a bad idea. They cause a depression, and we're already in one. I like how they say, well, we're not in a recession. Really? Yeah, slow economy, a lot of unemployment. Yeah, we're pretty much fucked. So if you are working, I would heavily advise you to buy as much gold and silver now as you can while you're still working, and put money away in your safe and brace for losing your job or figuring out a place to go. I would not buy a house now if it's going to be too much on your thing. Um, my idea of buying a house in the future is using gold to buy the house. So you don't worry about your banking and stuff like that. Because you're going to buy the house right out, right? Housing's going to come down, gold's going to go up. 2 ounces of gold buys the house. You own the house. It's like this. You know, okay, give me an ounce of silver for this. You give me an ounce of silver. And you own it. You're not making payments. So right now, if you go to the bank, you make payments. That's going to go away with gold when gold goes up 20, 30,000 an ounce, and the housing value goes down because it's priced in monopoly money, and then they price it in gold will be 2, maybe 3 ounces. You're buying the house. There is no bank. There is no payments. What are the payments? You paid it with 3 ounces of gold. So that's what you got to realize. And you might have to move to a different country or something. Who knows? It's all it's a lot cheaper. Um, like rent in Russia, you could get Daria's $300 a month. Um, in other countries, it's cheap. In other countries, there's Hungary, it's $500 a month. What is it in Amsterdam? I don't know. Or I'd stay out of England, Germany. I don't know. It's kind of dangerous there. They're broke. So you don't know what rent's going to be or buying a house in these other countries, but that might be your move. Question is it safe anywhere? Because there's going to be a lot of violence and protests. So we got to see what's going on with that. Profit. I thought we went off the gold standard in 1913. What exactly happened in 1971? Well, I don't know about Canada, but U.S. went off of the gold standard in 1971. 1913, we went off the gold standard for the Federal Reserve. We went back on it in 1945. Whatever that was, I can't think of it. When we went on the gold standard again, right after World War II, everybody was on the gold standard in 1945. And then Nixon took us off in 1971 because he kept printing money to pay for wars and the welfare state, and then we couldn't afford it, so we printed. But you've got to only have enough money for gold. Why they didn't raise the gold price, I don't know, but that's what happened. So the world was on gold from 1814 to 1914. And we went off of it for the Civil War, and then went back onto it in 1879 when the war ended till 1913. And it was a very prosperous time in the world. You did not need central banks, and you had huge productivity with oil and cars and everything. Well, cars, I don't know when Ford came in, but you had the trains and the track and the oil, and JP Morgan and Rockefeller and all these guys came up with their things, and it was highly productive. So it's not like you don't have money with gold. It's how you use the money, but you don't need a central bank. So yeah, 1971, Nixon took the U.S. off of gold. Everybody's dollar was pegged to the U.S. dollar, which was pegged to gold. So everybody's dollar in the world was basically gold back. He took the U.S. off, so now everybody's dollar was not based on gold. And the collapse of the world's been happening since 1971. California real estate is still very expensive. Well, that's a whole different ball game. It's expensive because California is different because they're milking Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley was all these rich people. California is going after taxing their taxes high. Everything's very high because they're pinpointing Silicon Valley people who make all this money, make a lot of money. And that's the key. So that's why I'm not sure if a house in Malibu, what it goes for, or a house in, LA or San Diego. My brother has a condo in San Diego, went from a couple 100,000 to like $1 million. He kept bragging he was a millionaire, and I just laughed at him. If you have to tell me you're a millionaire, you're not a millionaire. So he did that. He lives in San Diego. So I don't know if his house went down in value, but everything went up in value just based on demand. And he was fairly close to the ocean, but not really that close. So, yeah, but it will come down. Again, the values might be high, but if they try to sell a house, they're not getting their prices. The prices will come down. Once people need money, they will sell, in other words, let me go to my card. So here's a perfect example. So we'll go to Mr. Orr. So let's say this card's 75,000. I don't know. It's a guess. And I don't know a condition. It looks like a 10. It could be a 9. Who knows? But the card goes for auction at 75,000. It's like, oh, it's worth 75 grand. But now I need money. And there's no buyers out there. This is what the Keynesians want to call is deflation. I need money. I need to sell because I need money, but there's no buyers. So the price has to go down to the market. Remember, it's always the market for the ribs, for the Camry, for tennis shoes, for golf clubs, whatever. The market is what will they pay for it, right? This is what I'm going to pay for it. And you've got to figure that out as the seller. So if my Bobby Orr card is 75,000, but now less people are interested because they don't have the money to buy it, right? The money's going down. So the market maybe goes down to 60,000 for the Orr card. So I try to sell it for 75. I can't. So I have to lower my price to 60 to find the market, to find the buyer. If I'm in California and I'm selling my house and the market is 500 grand and I want to get $1 million for it, there's no buyers there. So then what happens is I have to go down to meet the market. Where is the sellers? And that's what I got to find. And then I say, it's 500,000. So that's what they call deflation, is the market going down and then the price. This is what I want. I want $1 million for it, but there's nobody to buy it. So it goes down. It's simply, I keep it in very simple English. It's the market going down. Deflation is not, it's a Keynesian term. It means prices falling, and the prices are falling. Not really, it's the market going down. So if I can you're only going to sell your house for 200,000. That's where the market's at. Well, no, I want 600,000. Yeah, but there's nobody home. So you have to lower your price to the market. And that's what the world is. That's what economics is. Where's the market? And that's what you're going to sell it. You cannot sell things over the market because this is where the buyers are. And you have to find the buyers. That's what I can sell it. So if Bobby Orr goes down to 50,000, it's not deflation. It's just there's the market has dropped. And therefore, this is what I'm going to get for this car. It's 50,000, not 75,000, because the market speaks and I must listen. I cannot try to sell it for 75 grand in a market that's 50. So they call it deflation, like I said, but it's really just the market dropping because they have less money. Now, on the other hand, I might need money. So I need to sell the card. And there's nobody home, and I'm still looking for the market. So I'm still looking for this thing. So I need to sell this. Well, it sold for 75. I'll offer 75 on eBay. And everybody's down here because they don't have a lot of money. There's less demand for any card or any house because we can't afford it. And then but I need the money, so I'm going to take less. So there's two ways to look at it. If I don't need the money, then I don't care what the market's down. If the market's went down to 75 grand or went down to 50 grand, I don't care. I don't need the money. I want 75 grand for it. I'm not going to get it, but I'm not going to go down. But if I need the money, I'll take the 50 grand. If I need to sell the house, if I have to sell the house because I want to move to China or Russia and go to BRICS, and I just need to sell the house, I'll sell it at market. I'll take less because I need to sell it. I need the money. And that's the key. So if you need to sell it, you'll take less. If you don't need to sell it, then that. So that's what's going to trigger the housing market. If they need to sell it, and they will, because they're going to lose their ass in stocks. So everybody's got their 401k from work and the employer matching 3% or whatever, and they can't get it out and the stock market crashes. They're going to need money. And that's where the housing values will also go down, because they will then need to sell. Right now, they don't need to, they're working. But once the stock market crashes and they need money, they will sell the house cheaper. And that's what's going to trigger the housing market to get crushed. People will go to the bank. The banks will get killed because people won't be able to pay the loans off. The banks start going under. And, as people can't pay their cars and their houses as they go out of work and they don't have gold and silver to have the insurance, then that's where you're at. You just don't know what to do with it. But that's how the market drops. It's, does the seller need to sell? If he does, the market will drop. And where's the market? Does the buyer need to buy, or does he realize, well, shit, I don't have to pay 75 for the ore. I can pay 50 for it, depending on if he needs to sell it or not. So it's all dependent. Do you need money? If you do, you're going to sell your Bitcoin. You're going to sell your stocks. The stocks are going to crush. So when the stocks drop, you're going to sell your Bitcoin. You're going to sell your ore cards. You're going to sell your house. Are you going to sell your gold and silver? Maybe. I think we're seeing some of that, but not a lot of it. The central banks aren't going to be selling their gold. And that's really our advantage, is the central banks really aren't into Bitcoin, and they really aren't into the stock market, a little bit into the stock market, and they're not into Bobby Orr cards. So the stock market isn't, or the banks aren't really going to dump gold. But everybody else who gets crushed on the stock market are then going to go, shit, well, I need to maybe cover if they are on margin calls, or I just simply, I'm watching, I need money. I'm not working. The stocks have dropped. So I thought I had 200,000 in the stock market. Now I got nothing, or I got 25,000. How am I going to retire? Well, what other assets do I have? Well, I can sell my house. I can sell, if I have a Picasso, my Rolexes, my Bobby Orr and Mantle cards. That's what I'm going to do. Is I'll have to sell those, but since I have to sell, I'll take less. And that's what these idiots call deflation. And I don't know where what bothers me is when if things go up, they call it inflation, wage inflation. There's no such thing as wage inflation. What are you talking about? Wages went up. The dollar's worthless. The dollar's gone out. There is no wage inflation. If you go make 50,000 and you get 60, it's not inflated. It's just you gotta raise and pay. It blows my mind how stupid people are. The only inflation is inflating the money supply. Period. That's it. Nothing else. All right, I will leave you with that. Anyway, here's my new cards. The Bobby Hall 19. I believe this is 1971 Bobby Hall. And we got Joe Montana 1985 with the Jerry Rice rookie. Or no, is this 80? Yeah, this is 85. Nice set, this 85. All these. See, you see what I did? I bought his rookie card. But then it's a player. Bobby Hall always has a value. Joe Montana always has a value. Bobby Orr always has. So you're buying the market. The market will demand these cards. And That's why you buy these players and you don't buy Joe Smith and Bob Ford. Nobody cares about them. Oh, it completes the set. Nobody cares about the set. I want the Bobby Orr card in the set, the Gordie Howe card in the set, things like that. But then you still buy the rookie. This I got out of a pack, the Tom Brady rookie. Even though it's specific, it's Brady and it's $3.99. It's ridiculously see. You think 21 million in Bitcoin's limited? Here's a Tom Brady $3.99 rookie card, which is more limited. Only I know this is $3.99. I you can't like with this card. I don't know. I don't know how many of these there are. I don't know how many Bobby holes are. And it's you can see a little off center. The Bobby Orr is pretty good. I don't know how many they made of this, but how many are centered, nice corners? Let's say this is a 9. How many 9s are there for a 19? This is 1969 card. How many are there? Maybe it's the 1970 card. It's good to see Bobby played 67 games, 21 goals, 43 assists, 84 points. So at least he was still playing at that time. I think this is a 1969 card. They printed a lot. How many are now PSA? Let's say it's a 9. How many are PSA 9s are there? Not a lot. Between the wear and tear of the card and the card being centered, which is not Topps did a terrible job centering them, which gives it valuable if you do find the centered, the Montana rookie, the Rice rookie, the Elway rookie. I mean, all from Topps. And then Flair did it with the 86 Flair with Jordan. It was, I remember looking for a Jordan and they were all off center. The guys probably weren't bringing in their best Jordan card. All of them were a little off center, and I could see if I was a dealer, I might, if I have 10 of them, I might keep my best one at home and try to sell the ones a little off center. But for what I paid, I made a ton on all of them, or I will make a ton if I sell it. But again, do I need to sell it, or do I want the money to buy gold with? That's really the question. And at this point, I'd rather have the money to buy gold than a lot of the cards, because the cards, I can rebuy them with the gold. So that's where we're at. So that's what deflation is. And it really isn't deflation. It's the market going down. So the guy with the $500,000 house can't sell it because there's nobody to buy it. If he has to buy it, he'll take 200. If he doesn't have to buy it, how long is he going to keep it at 500? Why are you selling it? So if you're selling it to move or something, you'll probably still take the 200 or 300. That's what's happening. But the whole housing market will collapse because there's more people that need to sell it to get the money than there are buyers. And especially with the 8% interest rate doesn't help anybody. But that's what inflation is. The value of the dollar is dropping. So that's where you're getting killed. So California real estate being expensive, the people don't need to sell, or are there buyers out there? Silicon Valley, probably not. San Diego, maybe. LA, maybe. San Francisco, Carmel. So it depends on the city, I'm assuming. I'm sure there's cities that the value's dropping. So but it's just there's a lot of taxes there. There's a big gas tax, there's maintenance. So people are probably running into there's no buyers, and so you're not seeing the price go down because there's no buyers. Did you ever go to any of the card shows? Yeah, I went to all the card shows. What do you mean? Where do you think I got the cards from? Magic? Give me a Bobby Orr card. I mean, no, I went, I looked for a lot of these at the card shows until I wanted a Bobby Orr. The rookie was probably too expensive for me, but I should have bought it. But I always loved this one with the stick I always liked the logos. So, now I went to several card shows and we always looked for it and we couldn't find it, or it would be the corner would be bent or there'd be a crease. And I didn't really want a less valuable card. I wanted a mint condition card. And it's going off of Beckett. So you're talking, they're looking at Beckett, which is a PSA 8 basically card. And let's say this card's $100. But why pay 100 if the card's dinged up? They still want the $100 for it. They're not really looking at condition. But I knew if I bought this type of card, this is worth a lot more than $100 way back then. Without, keep in mind, there wasn't a lot of grading going on in the mid 90s. So when I bought the card for $100, I wanted the best condition because I knew that condition would play a role in selling it now, and it does. Again, a PSA 10 Montana is worth a hell of a lot more than a PSA 9 Montana. Same thing with the ore. If this was a 10, and it could be, I see one of the corners, I can't tell if it's a little dingy, but pretty much sharp corners, pretty good picture, very centered. It's Bavior on the back. Had there been a stamp here, it would have ruined the card. So I got it without it. It's a little bit off center in the back, but I don't think that matters. I think it's more the front centering than the back centering. There's nothing I can do. The front is centered. So to find one that's back and front centered, I never would have been able to. So I paid like $75, $100 for it. It should be at least a 9. It was in really good condition. I remember when we bought it because we had looked at others that were not in good, either corners bent or marks on it or off center. And so this is very hard to find at the show, and I was able to get it for probably 75, $80. And again, that's me at my best. And then I'll even go to the dealer. What's your best price? Thinking he needs to sell. That's why he's here, or he at least wants to sell. So if you're putting your ore card out and you need to sell, I'm giving you, let's take $20 off. And so I always dealt, but they always knew I would pay. So everybody would deal with me because they needed the money and I had money. I had the commodity that's needed. So that's what happens. It's the market is going down because people are paying more for food and the dollar's losing value and everything they cost is more expensive. So I need the money for that more than I need the money to buy an ore cart or to buy a house in California. Everybody's moving out of California. That's the other factor that you've got to see, Profit. California real estate is still expensive because everybody's moving out. There's no buyers for the houses. So I don't know what you mean by expensive. I don't know what you're looking at to make that comment, but that doesn't make sense. Every house in the whole world's going down in value because of all the massive inflation. But that's why we buy gold. Then we come along going, yeah, I'll take the house, but I'm going to pay you in gold. And the guy will love it. Say thank you, because they'll all know gold's real money. Now, they might not know it in the U.S., but they know it in Europe. I know I could go to Germany and buy a nice house with gold, maybe not now, but soon. And the guy will take the gold for the house all day. So that's really what you're trying to do with this bullshit deflation, whatever it's. They hear a word, but they don't know what it is, and it's prices going down. Oh, be careful, prices going down. It's the market going down because there's less market, and the market can't afford what they could. When you have bad economic times and you have a recession and a depression, people don't have money. They're not going to give you the same amount of money for the house as if the economy's roaring. And the economy's not roaring. They might tell you it's roaring, but it's not. There's no fucking way gold. The inflation's 3% when gold's 500% in a year, or no, well, yeah, 500% or something like that. God damn it, what was it? 42. Gold's up 42% in a year. 33.77. Nice number. So that's the thing. So gold's up 42%. And you want me to believe inflation's 2%. Even if inflation is cost going up, then gold costs went up 44%. But that just shows you how hard it is to actually do it with cost. Wait, silver's up 15%. Well, wait, which one's the inflation? The 15% or the 44%? God. It's the only time I sneeze is right. It must be the computer. So that's really what it is. It's the market. You know, if my guy at the restaurant with the ribs can't, his pound, that's the deflation. But the inflation is the money losing value. So he needs more money to buy his ribs. And so I love to hear how they're getting 2%. Why is inflation derived at 2%? Why in the world are you using year over year when it's not year over year? But even if we did use gold year over year, it's 42%. But as you can see, there's 42 and there's 15. Nowhere near is 2%, unless you're dealing with little things that cost 20 cents. But that's probably more like 100%, 20 cents to 40 cents. Deb has very rich taste. She's from Pacific Palisades. I think she'd prefer to stay in California if at all possible. In my mind, Florida might be a better option. While the taxes and the standard of living is much better in Florida than California, it's probably better in Amsterdam or Hungary than it is there. I'm not sure about Singapore and Hong Kong. You have to talk to Pat when he comes on. But you'll have the gold. So once you get the gold, you'll have no problem buying a house. But you're not getting value and you're going to pay high taxes on it. But with all the gold you have, you'll be fine. Because gold won't go down in price like the dollar will. And you're going to pay cash. You're going to use the gold to buy the house. So one of your bars buy a house. You don't have a mortgage, right? There's no mortgage on it. You own the house. That's the beauty of the gold. You own the house. You're not taking out a 30-year mortgage. But still, Florida's a little hotter. You got to check the traffic and the crime and all that shit. I don't know where Pacific Palisades is that near LA, I believe. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of you got electricity problems, you got fire problems, you got a lot of problems because it's run by idiots, California. I'm not sure. It's right beside Malibu. Okay. Malibu was nice. I ate at Carmen took me to an Iron Chef restaurant right on the ocean. And it was good. It was very good. I got like a little steak. Had I known it was an Iron Chef, I would have eaten much better. But I thought it was a little expensive. But she didn't tell me it was an Iron Chef. So anyway, that would have been it. So with that in mind, yeah, I mean, I can see why she wants to live there, but if you got all the gold, then you can afford it. So you probably don't care, but she's right off the ocean, I would imagine. Malibu real estate is off the charts. Okay, well, one section could be. Not sure why. Are these actual sales or what? Well, you're paying for the view when you go to Malibu. I mean, partly the name, but you're right on the ocean. And everybody likes being on the ocean, so that's really that's really what you're paying for. If you were 10 miles inland, the price would be totally different. That's what I would do. I'd probably live 20 miles away and just drive 20 miles to the ocean, and it would be a lot cheaper to live. Anyway, Oceanside, that's near San Diego. Oceanside is between San Diego and LA on the San Diego side. Malibu is between LA north and Oceanside's going towards San Diego. I've been to San Diego a few times. My brother lives there. San Diego is pretty nice. I've been to Frisco. That's, you got the ocean all over. It's sort of like Italy, where up and down the coast, where we were on the Amalfi Coast and Positano, you had basically the Mediterranean, the whole coast. It's like a big coast, and there's the Mediterranean. So you get like the views I show you. Here's a view from my hotel room. So, like, this is the view from my hotel room. That's the Mediterranean. And then here's the beach where we would go, and all these big rocks. And then this was from the water looking back. And you just see all these. It's the Guns of Navarone, right? The whole thing is mountains. And this was the staircase. You can see the railing. That's the walkway. You would walk all the way up the mountain to get back to the hotel. You'd use that, and the steps were terrible. They were small, so you're used to a certain stride. Only these strides were much smaller. So I kept falling or tripping because my stride would kick the step, or I would stumble. I almost killed myself falling because of the steps were so narrow and quick, and it was very hard because you're used to going on steps at work or at stores and stuff. You can get $1 million home in Oceanside, which would cost at least $5 million in Malibu for the same house. Yeah, and you could get it in Hungary for 80,000. Yeah, I mean, sure, it's all location. And is there enough buyers for it? I mean, is there houses are selling? Are there buyers for it? So in other words, you need two to tango. You're going to sell, I'm going to buy. Do you have the buyer? So that's, well, in the Ukraine, it's even cheaper. The Ukraine, you can get a nice house in Odessa, which is the Black Sea. And I think I got some Odessa pictures. That's me in Odessa. That's the Black Sea behind me. We're at this restaurant. Where the hell is this restaurant? It had to be owned by the mafia. I mean, look how pretty this restaurant is in Ukraine. Here's another look out. That's the Black Sea. And we're in the restaurant. And here's us on the beach at the Black Sea. So that's the Black Sea there. So we're in Odessa. You go to the beach and they got all these mattresses and umbrellas. Oh, it's kind of cool. like $20. You rented it for the day or whatever. And I stuck my foot in the water and my gout went away. So here's us at lunch. You can see the Black Sea behind, and Jenna liked oysters. So, that's it. Mostly the beach and mostly the candy store and stuff like that. But it was very nice. You can buy a house there, I'm sure, very cheap, and spend your time on the Black Sea. You'd have a good time. But that's where you're at with it. You're basically depends. Everything's location. Now you're not going to have the ocean in Malibu, but see, then it becomes more demand. So the market in Malibu's up here, $5 million. And are you trying to sell your house there? But the market in Oceanside is $1 million. Right. So you see how the market has moved down to Oceanside, and the market in Odessa or Hungary is down here at maybe $100,000 or $50,000. So this is the point. You have different markets. You have different, and the key is finding your market. I can't sell anything up here when the buyer's here. I got to sell where the buyers are. So call the market the buyer. And it depends on location. If you're looking at a house or a car, is it a Mercedes $100,000 or is it a Ford $20,000? There's buyers all over the place. There's buyers on different things in different markets. And then the seller's job is to find where the market's selling. That's how you run a company. It's basically, where are my buyers? That's what you're looking for. And once you find that, then you're in. All right. Anything else? So good luck on the house. You got the gold. You should pay for the gold. And then they'll probably steal your money in the bank, and they'll do a bail in. So it's really going to be hard. You'll be selling your assets to survive if you lose your job. If you got your job, you'll be able to keep with your assets, but prices will be going up because of the money being worth less. It'll take more dollars to buy your things, right? So it's a double battle. The money's losing value, but which makes things cost more, which then makes the buyer go down. He doesn't have as much money to buy things with. Like I said, look at the house. The Malibu might not be affected by it, but in maybe Dallas, Texas, maybe it's cheaper, or in Michigan, maybe in Novi, Michigan, prices go down. Nobody wants to move to Novi. It's a nice place, but who wants to move to Michigan? I can be on the ocean, or live in Vegas where I can be on the strip. So there's the draw, which makes the buyer want to do it. But then as there's less. So what you're doing is you're killing the buyers. The tariffs are killing the buyers because they're raising the price, and the buyer is here. Now the price is here. Well, I can't buy tennis shoes at this price. This is where I'm at. This is what I'll buy it for. So you can't change. That's why you can't add cost to it. I can't take that. That's my person at the salon probably saying she's not. I have to change the date, but can't take her now. 33.75 up $23, and that's 0.7% because you're dealing with 3,000. Gold, silver's 34.48, right even. So anyway, that's the key to business. That's the key to everything. It's basically the buyers. So again, if you're talking women, it's the same thing. There's women here, they're the buyers and we're selling, or they're selling and we're the buyers. And it determines, do you want this really hot girl where there's not there, or do you want less of a girl that has it? So it's really it's always matching the buyer and the seller. The two have to meet, and that's where you're at with it. So you've got to understand that if you're selling, you got to know where's my buyers. If you're buying, then you've got to see where the sellers are at. So I will leave you with that. So anyway, gold 33.75, silver 34.49, and that's it. Baseball. Oh, she changed the date on my appointment from 7/8 to 7/9. Who cares? So she's bumping me, but a day, who cares? I might not even be in town. I might be on vacation July 4th, depending on Daria. I'm waiting for her to answer. Anyway, that's it. So, any other questions? Again, baseball, I have one game, Atlanta under 7.5 with Chris Sale going. Otherwise, I had good pitchers with weak hitting, with strong hitting, and I couldn't know if I wanted to bet the hitting or bet the pitcher. And most of these games were very difficult. So I only bet the one. All right, so we'll keep an eye on that. There's no fucking way inflation is 2%. It's at least, well, gold's 40%. I don't know how it's not 40%, but if you blend the gold and the silver, then it's 30%. How are we getting 2%? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Somebody says inflation is 2%, say, you're out of your fucking mind. Well, it's prices year over year. Well, based on what? See, that's the whole problem. There's no point in saying that because it doesn't make any sense. All right. I think I'll have a salad and go swimming, and that's it. Everybody have a great day. And again, it was very good to see Luke. Anybody else that wants to meet for a dinner or a lunch or just the bullshit, let me know. But I'm in Detroit. I'm not going to travel all over, but I will. If you come to Detroit or you're around in that area, Toledo or something, then that would be fine. That was a very good time yesterday. So have a nice day. Again, www.teaserking.com, and if you need to email me, you can do that. All right. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.